The history of animation is one that is very long, in-depth, and is filled with very unique inventions and innovations, such as the zoetrope and the flipbook in the 1800s, which allowed the user to flip through multiple still images to procure one fast-paced images. The silent era of animation was throughout 1908 to 1927, when in 1908 Emily Cole produced the first full 2D animated film, Phantasmagoria, which consisted of over 700 hand-drawn pictures. In 1919, Felix the Cat was produced. Over 10 years later, Felix the Cat became the first cartoon to get merchandise, and he became one of the most recognized cartoon characters in history. From 1924 to 1928 was the introduction of sound. There was a huge production of 19 song cartoons throughout 1924 through 26 called Song Cartoons, which was the first to use the bouncing ball on top of lyrics on the screen to indicate where in a song you would be. Not long after, in 1928, Walt Disney's first 2D animation, Steamboat Willie, was produced using cell animation, which was the first instance that Mickey Mouse was introduced to animation. From 1930 to 1935 was the introduction of color. The movie Fiddlesticks was produced in 1930 with the first complete sound strip and 2-strip color. This was also the first cartoon featuring Flip the Frog, which was a very popular character in that time. In 1930, the first cartoon to debut 3-strip animation was a film called Flowers and Trees by Walt Disney. This was very successful, and after Disney produced this film, they held the rights to this particular type of animation for a couple of years, about 3, until in 1935, this full-color type of animation was readily available to any film studio to use, and full color was considered to be the norm. The golden age of Hollywood animation came along through 1928 through the 1960s. This was when many large animation companies introduced many of their more famous characters. Disney Studios introduced Pluto, Goofy, and Donald Duck in this time, along with some others, while famous studios were able to introduce Popeye and Betty Boop. Warner Bros. Cartoons introduced Looney Tunes, and all of those beloved characters such as Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, Coyote E. Wild, Roadrunner, Porky Pig. Along with that, the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios introduced Tom and Jerry along with Droopy the dog. During this time, Walt Disney also began to dedicate a group of storyboard artists to focus on developing characters through a specific storyline, which he believed would be very important in the near future. This was proven to be correct when the first well-developed characters appeared in the Disney cartoon Three Little Pigs in 1933. In 1937, Walt Disney's Snow White was released and was considered to be the first color feature-length animated movie. Many thought this would fail due to the length and the bright colors, but it was a huge box office success. Shortly after, in 1940, both Pinocchio and Fantasia were released by Disney, which critics loved, but they failed at the box office due to the issues in the wars. Not many people were going to see the movie during these war times. In 1941, Disney released Dumbo using a much smaller budget, which helped to save money during release. In 1942, Disney released Bambi, once again using a higher budget, which caused them to lose money. However, despite all of this, Disney stayed faithful in cartoons and continued to produce animated films. During the war times, cartoons were no longer just being used to entertain children, they were also being used heavily for propaganda, using familiar faces such as Daffy Duck, Minnie Mouse, and Bugs Bunny, singing songs or being in special shorts to promote America, especially the youth of America, to help out in war times, such as asking for scrap metal or buying war bonds. Japan also featured their first animated film, Momotaro, Sacred Sailors, which was also a propaganda film inspired by Fantasia, was meant to appeal to children to show a peaceful, fantastical world of peace, which would happen after the war. The 1960s and the 1980s were considered to be the television era. Feature animated films saw a slight decline, though they were still being produced mainly by Disney, and but an increase in Saturday cartoons shown, such as The Alvin Show in 1961, The Jetsons in 1962, Scooby-Doo in 1969, and The Smurfs in 1981. In 1988, Who Framed Roger Rabbit became the first feature film to include both live action and hand-drawn animation or digital animation throughout the entire film. And in 1995, Toy Story became the first animated film to be filmed fully with computers. From then, we have progressed greatly in animation, and most days, animation is computer animated, such as Shrek, 1, 2, 3, and 4, Jimmy Neutron. Most Disney films are no longer 2D animation like they used to be. The last one, which was 2D animated, was The Princess and the Frog. Now, nearly every Disney film that Disney produces is either live action or digital animation done by rendered in a computer, like Frozen, Frozen 2. Some are even play on attempts of live action, even though they're still just very advanced CGI, such as the re-releases of Lady and the Tramp, The Lion King, or Dumbo, which are the same storylines, just done in a more realistic version of digital animation using advanced CGI to make the characters look real. And that's the history of animation.